Let's go. Okay, with pleasure now. Time to introduce my next special guest on my show now. We have a multi instrumentalist, a singer, and DJ, producer, even a bassist as well, songwriter, all the full works. We have Joe Geni. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Great. I think that the term I was looking for is multi-talented. You could do more than one thing.
I hope I'm talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Great stuff. So yeah, just wanted to get you on, just find out a bit about yourself and your music as well. First up, how are you today and where are you in the world right now?
I live in New York City. I work in diplomacy in my as my day job, and yeah, I'm based in Long Island City, which is a neighborhood in Queens, right across from Manhattan.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I can picture it. Yeah, I've is it a good place to work and live in?
It's great. It used to be an industrial neighborhood, and it's completely transformed over the last decade or so,
Yeah.
and just high rises going up everywhere, 10, 20, 30, 80 stories. It's really remarkable. It's a great place to live.
Wow. Bit of a modern urbanization then, keeping up with the times.
Yes, indeed.
And your music as well, does that reflect in the places where you live? Like say New York City, is that very inspirational when you're composing music?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of my music is based on place, and especially Long Island City being a city in transformation, and trying to find a home and find a place and find relationships and maintain friendships. Especially after the pandemic, there was this tremendous upheaval, and the city around me was in transformation too. There's wires, there's scaffolding going up, and it's a time of great tumult. There's great hope, but there's also great fear and uncertainty and regret, and all of that is really tied into the landscape.
Mm. And the people as well, do you have like people from all over the world, like say diverse cultures there?
Very much, yeah. It's a city of restaurants. You can get almost any cuisine on earth here done well, and yeah, there's like 800 languages spoken in Queens is what I've heard, and yeah, it's incredibly diverse city, and also a diverse set of people. They come, they go. It's really hard to maintain a peer group in
Mm.
this town. I'll meet someone cool, I'll get to know them, but they're working in the UN system, and so it's like, oh, they're going to Lebanon, they're going to Geneva or whatever. So there, yeah, so many interesting people, and you just hope they stay.
Yeah, sure. And do you have quite a few Italians, living in there? I know with Italian and New York as well, there's a strong connection.
Yes, very, very much so. Yeah, there's a tremendous, I mean, there's an enormous Italian American community. I mean, that was my ancestors coming over 120 years ago. But yeah, a large Italian community. It seems like, from my Italian friends here, it seems like every Italian in New York City knows each other personally.
Mm.
It's an incredibly tight-knit group. So yeah.
Right. And so you're as I says in the interview, you do a bit of DJing as well. Do you go out like say DJing on, restaurant, is it not restaurants, like bars, pubs, clubs, when you get a chance to?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been focusing more on my own music lately, so I haven't been DJing as much. But over the many years, I lived in Italy for a year, going to graduate school, and I was DJing clubs out there to pay for food. And I've done a lot of my friends' weddings, and yeah, bars and clubs around town. But these days, I'm really focusing on my own music, and so I
Hmm.
haven't done one in a while.
Do you think like being a singer, a songwriter, was that something deep down you've always wanted to pursue, like being on stage? I know DJing's fun, but did you feel like being on stage was what you really wanted to do deep down?
Yeah, the first time I got on stage and started singing, even though I was terrible, I realized I loved the connecting with the audience. DJing is kind of the same too. When
Hmm.
you realize you're connecting with the audience and they're connecting with you, there's this electric energy that's really special, and that's why I've been taking voice lessons ever since.
Oh, amazing. Also, I wanted to ask you had a single as well in 2024 release, City Where the Sky Subsides. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's a song about a date that got rained out. So the guy, the protagonist, is waiting for the sky subsides because it's raining, and so he had to be delayed from meeting someone exciting.
Okay. Is that based, that's not based on a true story. It was just kind of like, is that fictional or semi-fictional?
Oh, that's definitely. I feel like a lot of us have been there. That is definitely
Hmm.
the inclement weather, but also New York City is just such a sprawling city. There's a whole song I wrote that's the exact same premise except bridges. It's like people are too far away. The transit networks. It's like, oh, the 7 train is not running, so there goes Jackson Heights. There's no way to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why a date can be rained out or caused by all manner of things around
Hmm.
here.
That's fine. I just wanted to ask you, this is really going off topic here, but what's the best way to go from the JFK airport into, say, like the center of New York?
So that depends on how much money you have. So if you can pay like $50 to $100 for a cab ride, that's a very nice way to get in. It's one of the rare freeways around here that's not completely clogged with traffic all the time. But there's an E train. The E train runs. There's a local, there's a air train that runs you to the E train, which runs you straight into Manhattan through all of Queens, and that's probably the fastest way if you want to travel for less than $50.
Wow, that sounds good to me. I know your subway system is a bit like the London Underground, very similar. So people listening to this interview, if they're traveling to your city, they can just use their London Underground map skills and transfer it over to the subway side.
Yeah, it's the MTA here is the oldest, by far the largest, and at least in my experience, the best run of any of the subways in the United States. We're not really a country of passenger trains. We prefer cars in terms of our
Yeah.
infrastructure. But New York is really kind of an exception. It's a really a remarkable transit system. You just have to be careful because on the it's a commuter system, and so on the weekdays everything's running, and in general it runs really well. At least I think so. On the weekends, that's when they do all the track work. So it's like, oh, this train's closed, this train's closed, this train's only running half of its route. So if you're coming here for a weekend trip to see New York City, just be mindful of which trains are working and which are
Yeah.
not.
Brilliant. Thanks for just bit of tourism advice there. Very handy to know. Just wanted to ask about, to get back to music as well. Do you ever make music videos, where you live as well, to accompany the single release, YouTube, or, sometimes you have lyric videos or picture videos. Do you get time to do that?
I I have a music video that I will be releasing in a couple months after. So these last 3 songs, City of Energy, City Where the Sky Subsides, and now City of Light, are all going to be on a new album that's coming out in October. After that, a few weeks after that, I will release a music video. But right now, the only music video that I have ever released was directed by my sister's child, age 7 at the time, who put together a music video for one of my songs about climate change using a stop motion camera and their stuffed animals. And I thought it was a great music video, but it was also directed by a
Hmm.
7-year-old. So that's the only music video I have so far. But I will have another one
Yeah.
coming out in a couple months.
Yeah, time permitting then. I need to ask as well, who are your like inspirations, or who do you just like listen to, like say, on your playlists, or you like to DJ as well?
Well, it's everyone is now required to listen to Oasis because they announced their reunion tour. But no, I grew up listening to a lot of new wave stuff. So the Police, the Talking Heads. My parents obviously, they were baby boomers, so they had the Beatles around the house. But yeah, a lot of new wave stuff, and then a lot of kind of like Manchester, a lot of acid house. I was really into
Hmm.
electronic music, and then when I first got to New York, there was a lot of dance hall and reggaeton. I was living up in Harlem, and so
Yeah.
kind of combining like the rhythms of that, the kind of energy of new wave, and then the sort of weirdness of acid house and ambient electronica in the '90s, and throw all of those together, and you pretty much got a sense of what I
Oh,
do.
well, that's great. Are you a U2 fan at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, the the Edge is a great guitarist, but he also, because he uses effects so much, he's a great inspiration for people who are not great guitarists like me, because guitar is like my fourth instrument. But yeah, that kind of that space that he creates, it's really really remarkable, and the energy they have, especially their earlier stuff. Yeah, no, definitely a big influence.
And I know they had a hit called Angel of Harlem. Was that about New York? Was it? Is Harlem in the States?
Yeah, so Harlem is in it's in a neighborhood just north of Central Park in Manhattan, and it's historically known for the Harlem Renaissance, which was this great Black American cultural happening
Hmm.
earlier, in the early part of the last century, and so that's the neighborhood they're referring to. I lived there briefly when I first got to New York, and in a house of like six people when I was just trying to find my footing. And
Hmm.
it's a great neighborhood, lots of historic stuff, and again, it's just south of it is Central Park, which is a remarkable, the lungs of New York City. So much
Yeah.
greenery, really an inspiration. Every time I walk through it, I feel like I write a new song.
And that's Central Park. You see on so many TV shows and films, don't you? Like Central Park's in Friends, is it? And then maybe Home Alone 2.
So Home Alone too. No, absolutely. Kids are afraid of the park. No, and back then it was very very dangerous. But it's when I first got to New York, people told me not just to not go into the park, but not even to walk outside the park along the sidewalk, because someone might jump out of me. But it's totally
Yeah.
transformed now, and it's just utterly beautiful and an inspiration. My dad comes and visits me. He takes pictures. He paints it. It's one of those parks where it was designed so well that every direction you look at any point in the park is pretty, is beautiful.
Hmm. Sounds good just talking about it. My next question I was going to ask you, do you play like any instruments at all? And if so, have you been self-taught, like just picked up yourself, like it's guitar or piano or
Yeah, so I right at the singing is my main instrument. I am a singer songwriter, and when I first started singing, when I first was joining bands in New York, I would sing kind of like low, and I would be very sort of like indie style, and I was I kept shooting my voice on stage, and I'd be ragged by the end. And so I went and got voice lessons from an opera singer, and I asked him, why can't I finish a set? And he told me, it's because you're a tenor, and I will train you to be a tenor. And over the course of the next decade and a half, that's precisely what he's done. And so you'll hear it in my music. I sing quite
yeah.
high, and that's he taught me everything I know. And it was really, learning from just a true master, and
Mm.
an opera singer has been really edifying. I also play a bunch of other instruments, mostly self-taught. I play bass. Am I a member of Scott's bass lessons? Yes, I am. It's really good.
Oh, I'm glad it paid off for you in the end. And where's best for people to follow you on, like say social media, streaming platforms and so on, YouTube's.
Yeah, so you can find me on all of the platforms. Every song that I release is released everywhere. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer. You name it. On Instagram, I'm just Joegeni. Yeah, Joegeni, and I am not on Facebook because it made me insane. So,
Yeah, I can relate. Sometimes you need a break from social media, and it's yeah, you get trapped up in it. But that's another discussion to talk in itself. Anything else you may just like to add? What's the future hold for you? Got any more new material, like say in the pipeline? Any gigs coming up, or is this just the start of the journey?
yeah, this is. I mean, it's the restart of the journey, because I did all this music. Well, then I left New York, then I came back, and then the pandemic happened. So really, now is the first time I'm sort of opening up,
Mm.
experimenting with new ways of performing. But during the pandemic, I was working remote for 2 years, and I was just sitting at home basically 24 hours a day and couldn't go anywhere. So I wrote a lot of music. So there's two whole albums following this one that I'm going to be finishing up and releasing over the course of the next 2 years. So yes, lots and lots of new material, but my new album is coming out on
Yeah.
October 4th, and I really hope people like it.
Yes, I know where they were in unprecedented times between 2020, 2022 circa. I mean, the amount of music coming out since then and the artists, I suppose that's the one thing, positive thing coming out of that the COVID period.
Yeah, and it made people. I think it made people appreciate things that we have that we took for granted. and how scary it is and how that those can be taken away, and
Mm.
just like a different way of living as we tried to get through it together. And then kind of a sense of sort of loss for all the people that we had lost, and also just like weird euphoria as we
Yeah.
were able to sort of rejoin, most of us at least were able to rejoin society. So very complicated emotions, and I think a lot of people wrote songs about that, and I know I did.
Yeah, the world's shutting down. But yeah, coming back into it, all these years on, 2, 3 years on, we hope we can get to the position that we were before COVID, when people, used to go out, nightclubs and eating out, just trying to salvage that, and yeah, so yeah, but lovely speaking with you, Joe, today, and just filling us up about New York as well. It's really good to get some tourism advice on there as well, and more importantly about your music as well.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be on the show.
Yeah, great. And also, what to do is we'll play one of your records now, "The City of Light."
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
great,
I'm really proud of this song. I hope people like it.
great, and my pleasure having you on. And yeah, all the best with this record.
Thanks. Take care.